your trusty Blood Bowl information center about the Snot League. I'm Henry Snotson, your best and only presenter, and am back from vacation to deliver you all the news from round 4. Let's begin. We open round 4 with an emotion-filled match between Electric Boogaloo Carnival and Kamikazen. The Stinky Clowns could be sure their opponents would hesitate before contacting them. And oh boy, they stink extra foul that day. Kamikazen Warriors fell victim to, we don't want to touch them, problem. However, a disastrous mistake from Carnival sent the ball into the stands. Fans of both teams began fighting over where to throw the ball, and it flew around the stadium, ultimately landing at the feet of one of the samurais. Skurs, meanwhile, did what he does best, eliminating any resistance from the Nurgle followers. But no one expected a little Nurgling to bravely bring that oversized warrior down to the ground. The entire match was a showcase for one player, Venturi. This demonic samurai scored 2 touchdowns. Mr. Explodey made up for his previous pranks by accurately hitting his bombs, until he missed in the most critical moment. Despite this, Carnival managed to score a consolation point at the end of the match, thanks to Monty, who thwarted an attack on the ball. On the other hand, the match between FC Avalorn and the Slan from Rockstars can only be described with one word: Para-Olympics. Players from both teams seemed to forget their roles on the field. The Elves were stumbling and losing the ball, the Saurus Warriors were losing fights against the Elves, and even scoring touchdowns. Why are Saurus Warriors scoring touchdowns? The biggest disappointment was the newly hired catcher, Peppa, who was supposed to take some of the burden off Xavinia. However, she was so focused on chatting with fans and running her blog that she completely lost interest in the game, doing everything half-heartedly. Her mistakes led to FC Avalorn losing by 3 touchdowns. The boos and a few tomatoes thrown by disgruntled fans, well, they were fully deserved. Our next stop is an extraordinary match between the Deadlock Rumblers and the Citywood residents. Right from the start, we had quite the scandal. Kyler, one of the Woodland Berserkers, got into an argument with the referee and received a red card for his mouthiness. Meanwhile, the kicked ball landed straight into the hands of a surprised orc lineman. Well, half-orc, but who's keeping track? He decided to pass it to a better positioned teammate. But you know what the biggest flaw of half-orcs is? They absolutely cannot catch balls. This blunder led to a fierce battle for control of the ball, resulting in many injuries. 2 fairies tried to take advantage of the greenskins' distraction, but couldn't manage to lift the ball. The Rumblers, however, managed to thin out their opponents' numbers enough to score a touchdown. The Albionites had a big problem since many of their players were unfit to continue, but Fuchs and Deer quickly solved this by eliminating 2 orcs from the game, clearing the way for a fairy with the ball. The Rumblers were saved from a tie by Wolf's blunder. He underestimated his opponent and fell flat on the ground, followed by 3 more players, including the fairy holding the ball. The result of this brutal match was 1-0 for the Red Rock Rumblers. But I'd love to know who patched up the Albionites, as just a few days after their match, they faced off against the Bilbali Ballers. More on that clash in the 5th episode. Speaking of the Estalian team, they faced off against the Woodland Goblins. The Goblins hired Bomber Dribblesnot for support. A risky move, some might say. The Redwood Riders didn't spare Joseph Moranian's protégés, brutally fouling anyone who got in their way. However, the referee didn't fall for their old song about tribal dances, and several players, including the coach, saw the red card. It turned out that by grouping together for fouling, they fell into an Estalian trap. As soon as their opponents bunched up too tightly, the Estalians strategically pushed a Spider Rider out of the protective formation and squashed him like a bug, also stripping the goblins of possession. Shortly after, Brahim Sumbul was hit by bomb shrapnel and suffered a painful injury. Despite this, the Woodland Goblins regained control of the ball and scored a touchdown. The Estalians tried to quickly equalize, but a small goblin managed to get to the ball carrier. Whatever Joseph told his players in the locker room must have been motivational, because they came out so determined that they quickly eliminated the enemy troll right after the whistle blew, which gave them some breathing room. Oh, Nuffle, that swamp troll stunk awfully! But they didn't stop at one elimination. they proceeded to systematically foul their stunned opponents. Even the referee was so surprised by the Bilbali Ballers' change in behavior that he was speechless. If the Goblins' coach hadn't been sent off, he would have likely protested vigorously. The match ended in a draw, unfortunately breaking Joseph Moranian's winning streak. In this round, we managed to break some other streaks of events. You ask what kind? Well, in the match between We Are the Pirates and Al Nasser, the Dark Elves scored their first touchdown. However, their joy was short-lived as the Arabs crushed their celebrating players into a pulp, causing the seafaring coach to wave the white flag once again. It seems the Black Ark Corsairs have decided to race the Norse dwarves to see whose ship, or drakkar, will hit the sea bottom faster and harder. As for the PLOBZ, they were so busy with this diving competition that they didn't show up for their match against the Princes of Doom, breaking Chaos' halfling losing streak. In the penultimate match of round 4, the Black Potatoes faced off against the Century Centaurs. As we've come to expect, chaotic teams don't hesitate to massacre each other. And this match was no exception. A lot of blood was left on the field, to be cleaned up later by the cleaning crew. The already slick stone floor of the Dwarven Stadium became extremely slippery. Elena Reisling learned this the hard way when, after a spectacular pirouette, he hit his head on the ground with such force that it rolled a few meters away. The Centaur's coach had been waiting for this moment, signaling the hired magician. But his flashy fireball didn't make much of an impression on the dwarves. There seems to be something off about these dwarves. They're remarkably agile for shorties. Maybe it's the dark sacrifices they make to the Hashut. Returning to the match, the Centaurs were completely lost on the field today, repeatedly leaving their smaller brothers at the mercy of the Dwarven fists. Both teams didn't hold back on fouls either, and the referee had no problem with them. He didn't seem to move much on the field at all. The result of this match was a solid 2-0 for the Black Potatoes. Chainlinks and Defayans closed out round 4 with a surprising match. Unicorns, fairies, and magical trees are kinds known to witch hunters, but on the Blood Bowl pitch, that was something new for them. Despite this, they quickly scored the first touchdown to assert their dominance. Although someone might say that long dash that Walter done on the touchdown line was not exactly planned. The dominance also proved to be quite fragile when those friendly fairies and magical ponies showed their true colors. Their furious attacks to equalize before the end of the first half were relentless. Many of Sigmar's followers were forced to rest on the pitch. Well, the shade of a tree is always nice, even if that tree threatens to bash you if you dare to slightly move. In the second half, Defiance took the lead, while Chainlinks tried to score a second touchdown the same way as before. This time, the Woodland team wasn't caught off guard and snatched the ball, leading to a 3-1 score after Walter failed to slice the fairy with his sword. The witch hunter was very outraged by this and began to publicly argue with referee. Bad idea, especially if referee is an ogre. Triple your size! And that wraps up our summary of round 4. We're now at the halfway point of the competition, so it's time for a brief overview. Group A is dominated by Relic Slans from the Rockstars, who are the only team to maintain a perfect record and haven't conceded a single touchdown. If they can keep this up, we'll have a sensational outcome. Hot on their heels are the Black Potatoes, who boast the most casualties inflicted. In Group B, Bilbali Ballers and Defayans are neck and neck, promising a phenomenal showdown in the final round of the group stage. I can hardly wait. And that's all for today. Take care of yourselves and remember, Nuffle hates us all equally. But we all know he hates elves more. See you in episode 5. Bye!